Well, what can I say? Good noon here in London. And our guest today is Sheridan Johns, who is the head of the ecosystem of the Ocean Protocol, and he's based over in Berlin. So, yet again, some of the small advantages of lockdown and more use of video conferencing. Sheridan's here today to talk to us on the subject of is data the new money, and the Ocean Protocol and data as an asset. And as I think many of you will know, we here in FS Club have found this a fascinating topic, but I think you'd be quite surprised at how advanced some of the stuff Ocean is actually doing. Now, you'll know me, I'm Michael Mainelli, I'm one of the directors of Zien, and it really is a privilege to be able to introduce so many of these webinars as we range widely and freely across the world and across a whole bunch of subjects to do with technology, economics, and finance. And I'm really delighted here today because we're certainly going to be combining three areas, long held notions that it ought to be the case that we can buy and sell data. And this touches, of course, on issues that we've covered before on information privacy and GDPR. But of course, everything that underpins technology and finance is based on data. So it'll be interesting to see how Ocean is turning that into a market. Now, my job today is to get out of the way as quickly as possible so that you can hear from our expert. So I'll just make three quick points about the logistics. Firstly, yes, the slides are available, and in fact, they're already posted in the chat area and on the website. Secondly, yes, we are recording this, and the recording will be up in approximately 2 working days, i.e. hopefully Friday. And thirdly, can you get hold of Sheridan and me and ask us questions, please? We love questions, comments, and observations. And just put those into the GoToWebinar question facility. I'll feed them into the conversation with Sheridan. And Sheridan will be getting a copy of all of the questions, comments, and observations later with your email attached to it. So if you want to get in touch or have him come back to you in some fashion, simply type that in and we'll make sure that he gets it. So really, that's it. We're here to have a bit of fun today and learn a lot. And therefore, Sheridan, the floor is very much yours.
Thank you, Michael. Hello, everyone. Thanks for the invitation to speak. It's a pleasure to be here and look forward to the session today. As Michael mentioned, my name is Sheridan Johns. I cover ecosystem at Ocean Protocol. Essentially, that means that I have the good fortune to be able to collaborate with entrepreneurs and experts in the field of blockchain, machine learning, data science, and IoT, who are primarily at the forefront of building an open data economy. And today I want to talk about the value of data and some of the challenges that inhibit us from unlocking the full value potential of data. I also wanted to discuss the role that decentralized technologies such as blockchain and Ocean Protocol are playing in unlocking data and turning data into a new asset class. So with that, let's get started. So first, to illustrate the value that data plays in business today, I'd like to set the scene with an observation by Kai-Fu Lee. Some of you may have come across him before, but he's an influential American computer scientist, businessman, and author of a best-selling book, AI Superpowers. And Lee writes, the invention of deep learning means we are moving from the age of expertise to the age of data. Training successful deep learning algorithms requires computing power, technical talent, and lots of data. But of those three, it's the volume of data that will be the most important going forward. So you might be saying, we generate so much data every single day, that shouldn't be a problem. We have lots of data to work with. But as we all know, and as Michael kind of prefaced in the intro, data has inherent challenges and problems. So there are many, but if we focus on two here, the main problems we face with data are that we, and by we, I mean both businesses as well as end users and consumers, do not feel comfortable sharing our data. So there's an inhibition to share just intuitively. Furthermore, we also don't know the true value of our data. It's very difficult to price our data. How much is it worth? How do we know the true value? It's valued more to me than it might be to you, or you may see more value in it than I do. As a business, sharing data is perceived as being a considerable risk. On top of that, the risk of either losing one's competitive advantage or violating strict data privacy regulations. So sharing is a risk. Oh, sorry. Still, I think we jumped ahead a bit there.
Apologies, Sheridan.
All right, it's all right. I just wanted to go into the consumer side of things, right? We have very limited say in how our data gets used. Typically, a consumer has a binary choice, right? We either have access to valuable online services that are presented to us as being free, and we either sign away all of our rights to our data when we share it in some long terms and conditions, or we decide not to sign up, and as a result, we're not able to access some of these essential digital services. So even the value of our data and in that context is not keeping us from not engaging sometimes. And now moving forward, please, Michael, thank you. So on the one hand, this has led to data becoming siloed, and on the other hand, it's led to data being massively underutilized. So big tech companies like Google and Facebook, everyone is more and more aware of this. They routinely collect massive amounts of data, which they keep siloed and only use for themselves. And they extract value from user data with little direct reward given back to the users who've provided it. And by design, this means that massive amounts of data are being locked up and only utilized by a small number of big players. According to a recent study by Forbes, only 3% of companies say they have access to enough data. So there's lots of the have datas and not enough of the have datas. Or there's a few companies who have data and not enough of those that have enough. And of the companies that have access to enough data, only a handful of companies have access to quality data, and even smaller number of companies are able to monetize their data. So this lack of access to quality data is one of the biggest challenges also to innovation. If more companies had access to more quality data, more companies could develop new innovations and solve pressing problems facing business and society. Last but not least, we generate more and more data every day. In fact, in the past 10 years, the amount of data being generated has increased tenfold, but 97% of that data is underutilized. So again, the current construct that exists today, there's just not enough incentive to share data. And the bottom line is there's so much data, but most of it is siloed and latent. But what if we could turn, what if we could turn data into an asset class that anyone could access, own, and trade? If we could do that, we would be able to unlock and empower an open data economy and give people back the power over their data. If we could do this, we could break down those silos and enable access to more quality data, as well as the ability for individuals to monetize their data. If businesses were able to access more data, they can create new value, new products, new innovations, and even new markets. If people know that they don't lose control of their data, but instead they can earn money by sharing their data, they'll demand control back, and they'll find creative ways to market and sell their data and turn data into an asset that is integrated into the tools of finance. So at Ocean, we're working towards this and building an ecosystem where data, including consumer data, is an asset class that is fairly priced, and where business and users can share their data safely and be compensated in return. So what's driving this? Next slide, please. The technology that will allow this to happen is Web3. It's basically the next wave of the digital revolution. Web3 refers to decentralized apps that run on the blockchain. The decentralized nature of blockchain technology means that any changes to the fundamental rules or parameters of the network require consensus of the majority of users. Whereas Web2, on the other hand, refers to the internet we know today on the left-hand side of the screen here, dominated by companies that provide services in exchange for your personal data. They are the central authorities of the network. They exercise full control, and they make changes and decisions that affect each participant. So with Web3 and blockchain, next slide, One could argue that we're at the cusp of another wave of digitization that potentially will even dwarf Web 2.0. Why? Because blockchains allow the digitization of value. Blockchain will shape our relationship with anything of value, and one could see it as a global utility for the world, if you will. So ask yourself, if you could go back in time to the 90s as the internet, Web 2.0, was just getting going, and knowing what you know today, what would you have done? Well, I would argue that you should be asking yourself the same question today about Web 3. There are many new exciting opportunities in Web 3 that will undoubtedly shape the future. So getting more into Ocean Protocol and addressing some of the challenges surrounding data sharing and to empower an open data economy, the core idea of Ocean is to give people the power to take control of their data, share data in the way they want, and monetize data under their own terms. To enable equitable data economy, Ocean's core code base is open source, and we also encourage contributions from all members of the community to get involved. So everything Ocean does and all the software we release takes us in the direction of unlocking the value of data. In essence, there are 4 key elements of Ocean Protocol that make it happen. And these are Ocean Market, and I'll get into all 4 of these. Ocean Market, data tokens, initial data offerings, or IDOs, as we call them, and compute to data. So first, Ocean Market. We need somewhere to trade the data, and that place is Ocean Market. Ocean Protocol, as I mentioned, is a decentralized data exchange protocol that enables anyone to publish and trade data sets that they have the rights to. Ocean Market is an application built on top of Ocean Protocol, leveraging Ocean Protocol smart contracts. So Ocean Market is the user interface that exposes all of the open source Ocean Protocol technology, and it gives people, institutions, organizations ability to publish data sets, generate data tokens, which I'll get into later, as well as stake and consume data tokens. So since launching Ocean Market, I can share some stats with you. We launched at the end of 2020, and within the first month, Ocean Market had over 30,000 visitors, over 1 million Ocean tokens pooled, and close to 60,000 transactions. And within the first month, 250 data sets were published. So this obviously was a big splash, and we were very excited about how it was received. And currently, there are close to 500 data sets published, and a total value locked of more than 5 million euro. And all of this is really within 3-4 months of the launch of Ocean Market, and this is a reference marketplace. We hope to see not only our market, but anyone, as I said, it's open source, can use and fork Ocean protocol technology and marketplace and actually make a marketplace of their own. So let's hope that more markets will come in the future. Moving on to another element of Ocean that is helping to unlock the value of data, and that is data tokens. So what exactly is a data token? When a data set is published on Ocean Market, the publisher mints data tokens and defines access control for that data set. So a data token is basically a container around a data set that defines access control. So who can access the data? Under what conditions can they access the data? For how long? For example, a publisher could give access on a subscription basis or as a permanent purchase. The publisher could restrict access to a maximum number of people or make it unlimited. The price could be fixed or dynamic, set using automatic market makers, which I'll get into later. And all of this is kind of happening in the background and automatically once the data set has been published. So Ocean has this granular access control built into it. And the data tokens, they're ERC20 tokens, so they're on the Ethereum network, and they are generated for each public published data set and are highly compatible with existing decentralized finance solutions and tools. So you can think of a data token as being like Lego blocks that can leverage the composability and the tools, the tools of the existing DeFi crypto ecosystem. In other words, crypto wallets now become data wallets. Crypto exchanges become data marketplaces. So with these data tokens, which are tradable and provide access to a specific data set, one can also have a market for them as well. Last but not least, all tokens or all data tokens can be used to stake. They can be used to inject into automatic market makers like Balancer and Uniswap, which are in the background for the creation of liquidity pools on dynamically priced data sets. And data tokens can also be used as collateral for lending. So another element, the third element of Ocean that is helping unlock the value of data is enabling what we call the initial data offering, or IDO. Now, whenever a data set is published dynamically, meaning the market is setting the price on Ocean Market, it's basically kind of like an initial data offering, right? So similar to an initial public offering that one knows of in the classical sense. So this kind of solves the problem that I mentioned before. You know, how do I price my data? How do I know what the value of that data is? Well, through an IDO, the market prices the data. So you are able to perform price discovery. Not only are you able to perform price discovery, but third parties are able to also stake on your data and also participate in the value gain of that data set, which is then linked to the demand for that data set. So it's a very interesting element of the market, and so it's not only exchanging data and buying and selling data, but there's also this ability to participate in the value of creation that the data offers. And with that, actually, I'd like to pause and take a quick pricing poll. And here's something that I kind of thought might be fun. This data set consists of just under 5,000 records of BMW used car sales at auctions in the United States. So this has some various use cases with respect to identifying vehicle features, on price sustainability, what popular models are priced at. So it could certainly be of interest from a business perspective. So I would ask you, what would you price this data if you could? 5. Oh, there we go. I think the poll is running.
The poll is running. So would you put it at €5, €50, €100, or €300? Our audience is normally fairly over half of them have voted in 10 seconds. Sheridan, they're very swift. That's great. 3/4 have voted. If you leave it, I'll leave it open just a couple more seconds to get some stragglers.
Sure.
And that's great. And the vast bulk of the audience have voted now, and I'm now going to close the poll and share the results. So just under half the audience think it should be about €100.
Good. Well, first of all, that's encouraging because people are understanding the value of data and obviously having a first crack at trying to price it accordingly. This data set, those of you who were very astute could actually have zoomed in and seen the price that it actually, oh no, we covered it with question marks. Very good. Super. So there was no cheating involved. This price was, this asset was registered using dynamic pricing. So the market set the price of this data. And this data set is currently listed on Ocean Market and is priced at €416. So actually, this was kind of a trick question, but this is just kind of to show you that, you know, when you try to price data on your own, it's very difficult to say what the price may be. But through mechanisms that we have on Ocean Market, you have dynamic pricing that is not only real time, but it's also very transparent. And that's really the first time that you have such data pricing tools available in a decentralized context based on blockchain technology. So last but not least, the fourth element, thank you, where Ocean is helping unlock the value of data is compute to data. Now, compute to data is our most requested feature. In short, it allows algorithms to travel to data to improve their prediction models without exposing the data. So the algorithm is sent to the data and can train on that data. And as a result, it preserves the privacy of the data subjects. Compute to data enable marketplaces to buy and individuals to buy and sell private data in a privacy-preserving fashion for use in multiple verticals, healthcare, mobility, really, you name it. And compute to data actually has existed in the Ocean technology stack for some time, more specifically in several of Ocean's enterprise solutions. But today, actually, I'm really excited to announce that compute to data is going to become available to the public on Ocean Market this week. So keep an eye out on that as you go on Ocean Market and look around. Shortly, it will be possible to also register and use data sets that have the compute to data feature. So all of those core elements of Ocean come together really to incentivize people to share data and treat data as a fairly priced asset. Anyone can publish data for sale. Entrepreneurs can set new marketplaces up to create and monetize data. Curators can stake on high quality data and data services that are diverse and likely to gain in value. DeFi protocols can apply their tools to data and allow for the financialization of data assets. And last but not least, developers can also access grants and bounties through the Ocean ecosystem for maintenance and improvement work to the network. So they kind of have play a role within the future creation of this network based on data assets. So is data the new money? Well, you know, it's getting there. I think that was kind of what we were trying to show, how it's getting there. Data is becoming an asset class which can store and transfer value, as we've demonstrated through the market. Those are two of the key functions of money. And the more data can function as a store of value and as a store, excuse me, a value transfer mechanism, the closer we'll get to data attaining qualities of money. So last but not least, to achieve scale, Ocean has partnered and continues to partner with various enterprises and organizations. Here to highlight a couple that I think are particularly interesting. For example, Ocean and Daimler has joined to run a proof of concept to test blockchain capabilities for data exchange between different internal business units, as well as key service providers. So that's a very interesting use case there in automotive. And Ocean is also a day one member of Gaia X, which is a pan-European initiative launched to create a federated, decentralized data and cloud computing ecosystem. And within Gaia X, Ocean is working to create data standards and norms to enable federated data services and data spaces. So together with partners as well as a community, Ocean is working to unlock data and to turn data into a new asset class. So from my side, that kind of concludes the formal presentation. And I thank you for your time. Look forward to your feedback and questions and comments.
Wow, Sheridan, may I congratulate you on an extremely cogent and absolutely punctual presentation. And we've got a whole bunch of questions here. I think people are quite interested. Might I point out, folks, one thing you might want to throw into the chat room is just suggestions about data sets that you know of or you think you might be able to sell on such a marketplace. And I can maybe feed some of those through to Sheridan as examples. But just to get cracking, Sheridan, could you just go over the IDO, how it works in terms of the valuation? I mean, in a normal IPO, I price the IPO and I offer my shares out, but you seem to indicate that the pricing was fluctuating a bit more, so I could get a better handle on it. And you also said that other people can benefit from that.
Mm-hmm. Sure, I'm glad to go into that. So an IDO, again, this is when one registers a data set on Ocean Market, and you're registering it through dynamic pricing. So there are two options currently available, and that is you can register a data set with a fixed price. So you determine the price that you want to have, and that's what you list, and then that's what you expect and request for any consumer to pay to access that data. That's fixed pricing. The dynamic pricing, which enables, just as it says, a dynamic price, you do determine an initial, let's say, price for that data. However, moving forward, the price will adjust according to a number of factors. One, certainly the consumption and demand of that particular data set, but also the value that the community sees in that data set. So similar to stock market, if someone sees the value of a certain security and sees that as going up, they're going to want to participate in that. And they're going to purchase that security, and in doing so, there's demand for that security, which will then increase that the price for that security. Similarly, in an IDO, or this dynamic pricing mechanism of data sets, one can stake tokens or data tokens, as well as ocean tokens, on a data set, and in doing so, first of all, you contribute to the liquidity for that actual data set. But you also participate in the value that it's creating. So we're actually seeing, there are three, let's say, actors on the ocean market. One being the data publisher, who has, let's say, a significant possibility to gain from publishing and sharing the data. The other is the data consumer, that obviously is able to gain access to that data, which they couldn't have before. And the third actor is really those who are staking on all of those assets that are available on the marketplace. And now we're also finding that it's the third actor that is most active and is currently the largest percentage of individuals on active on the marketplace. So there's actually a lot of activity on staking and staking on data assets without necessarily owning that asset oneself.
There's a famous Jewish brothel keeper in New York who remarked, "Oy vey, what a product! I sell it, and I still have it to sell it again." Data, is traditionally, like that. You can keep selling it. How does it work here, though? Is that, do you have different models where I can sell it an infinite number of times, or it's a one-off sale, or something in between?
Right. Yeah, that's I alluded to that a little bit in the presentation. It's possible to set those parameters going in, whether it's, let's say, a one-off, whether there's a maximum number of users, whether there's infinite number of users, whether it's a subscription. That certainly is possible. What is also possible is to refresh the data. So the data set that one registers basically has a unique URL, and that URL points to a specific data set. And if that data set is continuously updating, let's say at the end of the week, you update that data set to include that week into the overall data set, then you kind of have refreshed and current timely data. So you can, by listing a data set once does not mean you have to relist it at the end of the week when there's new data available. You just basically update the data that's behind the URL that it's pointing to.
And another quick question, and I've got quite a few here. Just on the other side of life, is there an ability to sort of post, I would like to buy?
That's a very interesting question. Currently that's being approached, and there are many in the community that are actually working on this, and also working on some data collectives, right? Where you would have a collective that it represents a number of different data owners who then would pool their data into a data set, and that data collective, which in the crypto world is termed as a DAO, or a decentralized autonomous organization. And that DAO would distribute then the gains to those individuals who have contributed to assembling that data set. And there also there's also work being done by community members to do exactly what you said. Basically, we are looking for data set X, and we're coming up with a data bounty, and we would like for anyone who has that data set to basically hear our call and make that data set available for the price.
Bob McDowell is curious, is this a new way of selling news data to the media? And I might add on to that, a new way of perhaps organizing consumers to fill in questionnaires. You know, hey, we're 1,000 consumers in a group. We're prepared to fill in a questionnaire if you want to do it. We've worked out our own DAO to distribute the proceeds amongst ourselves. Give it to us and we'll fill it in.
I mean, on the second one, that's certainly possible. As I said, that's being worked on. I mean, there are infinite number of use cases that one could think of. And certainly with respect to news and news media and how that it can be leveraged with respect to making certain data available either to the public or to news organizations. You know, any private data that has potential value or value for someone can be listed on Ocean Market, and it's really easy to publish. You know, there's anyone can do it. And it's not restrictive, and it's peer-to-peer, so there's no, let's say, third party involved. So it presents a lot of interesting opportunities with respect to what can now be monetized or what can now be opened and unlocked. So
Stuart Jack says his core business is matching consumers selling their cars with car dealers. We have the capacity to generate 200,000 personal data sets per month related to used car sales. How do we value this data as an ancillary revenue stream?
Well, how to value it or come up with the pricing, that would very much be, as we kind of went through today, a way that one could leverage Ocean Market to do so. Ocean protocol is not just limited to Ocean Market, so one could even fork Ocean Market and make a marketplace that's dedicated maybe to a specific vertical like automotive, and start to curate and basically populate that marketplace using Ocean protocol technology, so that you could not only use the particular data set that you've mentioned with respect to used car data, but maybe there's also other relevant data within the automotive sector that you also have access to that you could make available, and in whether that be through Ocean Market or maybe your own, let's say, branded marketplace that's using Ocean protocol technology, and that would be a very open, transparent, and real-time way to value that data set.
Trevor Hilder is curious, is Ocean protocol on its own blockchain? And if not, what blockchain does it use?
Yeah, no, we're not our own blockchain. We're Ethereum blockchain. We've also now migrated onto Polygon, so Mantic, and we are on the roadmap planning to go further and have multiple blockchains that we're compatible with. But right now, We are not our own blockchain. We are in the Ethereum ecosystem as well as the Polygon ecosystem.
Yeah, so JD was curious about your multi-chain approach. Donald McCrae was sort of curious. How do you ensure data validity, or do you ensure data validity?
That's a good question. We have had certainly since the market, ocean market has gone online, interesting learnings along the way, right? One certainly would be a data validity. One would also be data accessibility. One would also be data ownership. There is a feature currently on Ocean Market that allows one to post a sample of the data set. So that will allow, excuse me, those who are interested in it to take a look at a portion of it to determine whether or not it's relevant or valid for the use case that they're thinking of. But we have also learned a lot about actors and bad actors that can also be on the marketplace. And the community is very adamant, passionate, and active. So up until now, many of the bad actors who may have, posted a data asset and violated IP or the data set was not what it claimed to be, have been immediately flagged and also put into purgatory by the community. So we basically put into purgatory that data set as well as the individual or the agent that has posted that data set. So there are mechanisms in place to deal with it. And there are also, plans moving forward to help improve certain aspects of the marketplace and the Ocean Protocol technology, as well as to facilitate easier IDOs and to create more liquidity for individual data sets, as well as the market in general.
Liz Thrussell was interested in, once a data token is sold, how is misuse managed? So that's the purgatory element, I think. Ben Koppelman is curious about what are the governance aspects of Ocean itself? How decentralized is the control and rule setting of Ocean? And in particular, how are disputes identified and resolved?
Yeah, no, a good question. And for Ocean, obviously by default being on Ethereum, it's as decentralized as Ethereum may be. The entire, let's say, blockchain and decentralized technology space is day by day becoming more decentralized. So there are a number of let's say actors who are very involved, and it has room for improvement to be more decentralized. But since it is on the public blockchain Ethereum network, it's by default as decentralized as Ethereum is.
Sheridan, it's early days, obviously, but even so, Douglas Andrews is curious. Do you have any idea of the kind of the functional breakdown by sector of the current users of the protocol, or how would you break it down?
Yeah, currently we're seeing most of the data sets. Let's see if I'm just concentrating on Ocean Market. Very strong interest in data sets about data sets. Surprisingly enough, it's a very niche technology right now, emerging technology. So right now, those who are aware of it and who are using it are also very conscious about the other data sets that are on the market. And there we see interest in, let's say, financial data or data about other crypto assets or crypto trends, crypto markets, financial crypto data. But on the other hand, we're also working with organizations that are in automotive and also within the more traditional finance sector. So that's where we see right now the activity. However, we're getting calls or at least inquiries daily from a wide range, including healthcare, including mobility, including autonomous driving, for example, anywhere where massive amounts of data are being generated or need to be analyzed.
Stuart Jack again, in the poll example of the BMW data set, you mentioned it had a market value of 416 euros. How many clients would actually buy that BMW data for that, or has it been sold?
Yeah, I don't have the stats on that. That's an interesting question, and unfortunately, I can't answer has it been sold and have clients actually consumed that data. As I mentioned before, there are many who are participating in the market that aren't necessarily consuming the data and are really staking on the data. And in staking on the data, also the value of the data rises, which can sometimes be a good and bad thing. Obviously, as the data owner, you'd like for your data to increase in value, and you would participate in the value creation or value gain of that asset. But on the other hand, if it becomes, let's say, too expensive, or the price gets too high, it becomes prohibitive for those who want to consume it, or they may think twice about it. So we're also working on mechanisms that might control that a little bit better. But certainly with respect to that particular data set, I don't unfortunately have the data on that.
Chris David would like you to expand a little bit. You said, we're decentralized, open source, and blockchain, but he's just a little unclear about what is the business model for Ocean itself.
So the business model for Ocean itself is certainly predicated on the tokenized ecosystem that we're building. So Trent McConney, the founder of Ocean Protocol, has written a number of very interesting blogs on the sustainability loop, where the tokens which are in the ocean ecosystem are basically being used to continue to develop and keep the sustainability of ocean tokens and the network growing over time. So without going into too much detail, as the adoption and use of Ocean increases, and specifically with respect to the Ocean token, the value of the network as well as the token increases.
Okay.
And all of those who have seen the value, or who have Ocean tokens, whether they're using them within the system or in the network, or just have them because of their support of the project, can benefit.
Bob McDowell again had a very interesting question, I thought. How important is packaging and presentation of data to its value in future?
You could even expand that, and what's the role of marketing with respect to the valuation of any company and any product. But I would say it is important. Certainly, understanding what the data, let's say, contains, and presenting that in a way that makes it easy for the potential consumer to understand what they're getting is increasingly important, right? You want to highlight, as we had in that use case, something about the use cases, something offer some type of insight as to what a sample of the data set, and the more I think information and let's say transparency, and to make it more accessible, that will mean that data set will just be understood, and the value will be communicated much more effectively. So I would say yes, marketing will play a large role in determining the consumption as well as the value of data.
Well, sadly, Sheridan, time swept by. I find this absolutely fascinating and exciting. This all the talk of data is the new oil, and all the things even that we've written over the years about how you could, in theory, do it. You've gone out as a team and built this up and got it running, and it is extremely impressive. So thank you for sharing it, and I think it's something we'd like to keep a close eye on, not in a nasty way. We'd just like to see how it's going and developing, which would be really, really great. And if you don't mind, I've just got 3 quick rounds of thanks. Firstly, to our sponsors, as ever, for their tolerance, but I think that hopefully they found this very, very useful and intriguing. Thanks to all of the audience out there. Your questions will be sent to Sheridan later this afternoon. But thank you for listening and for questioning. Tomorrow morning, bright and early at 9 o'clock London time, we have the launch of Global Green Finance Index 7, which particularly with COP26 looming in November here in the UK, up in Glasgow, is very, very interesting. For everything else, please do check out the website. There's a lot going on. But my most sincere thanks is to Sheridan, who kindly stepped in for one of his colleagues who was unable to make it, and has done a simply brilliant job at explaining what is a slightly unusual concept, but one that I anticipate is going to become more and more common, which is people recognizing the value of their data and realizing it, which is what you're allowing them to do. So thank you so much. Unfortunately, I'm unable, our technology does not extend to rapturous applause, so I have brought along my Korean karmic clapper, and I will give you applause from the audience, and I've already got a number of interesting comments and thanks coming in for such an excellent presentation. Really appreciate it, Sheridan.
Super. Well, Michael, thank you, and thanks to everyone who tuned in for their time. I appreciated the opportunity.
Great to see you.